Greetings, good people. I'm Simon Stengel, aka the Mad Priest of Vredendorp, coming to you from the Chapel of Perseverance. Just get a shot of caffeine. Today we're talking about all things work together for the good. Chapter 11, and I'm concentrating on what I spoke about in chapter 10 in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28. Why am I concentrating on one scripture alone? Let me explain to you why. Throughout my life, I've made wrong choices. I'm still making wrong choices. And we as Christians stumble every single day. And one of the scripture that really saves me every time and encourages me and fills me with hope is Romans 8:28. And God says in this verse, all things work together for the good of those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. This verse is a promise to Christians who have trusted Jesus and who trust Jesus on a daily basis. All things work together for the good to those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. What does this mean? It means no matter what you do, God somehow or other realigns your life so that everything that you have done, even bad choices, realign themselves for the good. In other words, it's God's coincidence, His calling card, His synchronicity, His ability to realign us with His perfect will by demonstrating His ability to create coincidences and synchronicities in our lives. Now you might think, how does this work? Does it even work at all? I can tell you from my own experience, every bad choice I have made, that I've prayed about, every time I speak Romans 8:28, I understand that God is somehow or other, in the present, able to realign my destiny towards heaven in a miraculous fashion. The synchronicity of Romans 8:28 is unparalleled. They even made a Netflix series about it. It's called Manifest, and it's about some airline plane that disappeared and then came back 20, 30 years later. Read about it in chapter 8, verse 28. And then if you want, watch Netflix Manifest. It's quite interesting, not particularly scriptural, but one of the reasons it's such a powerful scripture is that it's become the cornerstone of so many Christians who are embattled with wrong choices on a daily basis. So I said, God's coincidence and His synchronicity is His calling card, is His ability to somehow or other realign us back to the path. Why does He do this? Because He predestined. He knew that this was going to happen. He knew human beings are shitheads. We make mistakes every day. Why do we do this? We do this because we have the whole fallen nature with us. We are greedy. We suffer all sorts of adversities in life. We make wrong choices. And so God has to realign us every single time. Let me talk briefly about some of the other aspects of what God does. So, Romans 8:28 guarantees that even trouble in life becomes good. He turns negatives into positives. This verse doesn't mean that God causes people to suffer, or that the suffering is good in itself. It means that our troubles become the paving stones for a good outcome regardless. Also, it's about God's ultimate destiny for our lives. He makes sure that our lives ultimately lead to a domain of perfection and joy. It's about God's miraculous work in our lives. It's a miracle to see how many times I've screwed up and how many times God has used negative things in my life and brought my life back into the fold. His ability to always turn negatives into positives as well as our good, is His miraculous synchronicity in our lives. It calls for an acceptance of God's work in our lives. This verse teaches us that God is at work in every aspect of our life, and we should align ourselves with His purpose. He predestined it all and rearranges all of our affairs to align with His perfect will for our lives. You can look at some of the examples in the Bible. For instance, the life of Joseph is an example of Romans 8:28. Joseph experienced very bad things, including slavery, imprisonment, and rejection. However, God was able to bless his family and save the people out of Egypt. I can tell you, in my own life, my bad marriage brought me a beautiful daughter. My terrible upbringing made me focus my talents today. I had a stammer when I was a child, and I kept asking God to take this from me. And what did He do? He left it the way it was, and I was forced to overcome my stammering by using hundreds upon hundreds of alternative words to use when I wasn't able to speak coherently. So I developed a mental thesaurus. I could speak with the most extraordinary vocabulary. All things work together for the good. All my bad choices were turned into opportunities. So remember, every time you think you've made a bad choice, that God is somehow working with His ability, His coincidences in your life, and His synchronicities, which are really His calling card. I call coincidences God's calling card. And synchronicity is how He realigns us again and again and again